Masquerade. Oh, what if time? Oh, 1959, nearly there. Oh, it's gone live already. Oh, bugger. Here, get yourself comfortable. Emails up there. Information's there. Yeah, we're all ready to go. Hi, Rick. How you doing, mate? Right, look at the camera, because that seems a little bit more personal when I do that. Hi, Rick. Hi, my love. How are you? Dog Dad. Evening, mate. How's it going? Oh, happy St. George's Day. Hope the alert test didn't make you jump too much. God, nearly leapt out my bleeding chair. It's not what you want on a middle of a Sunday afternoon when you're having a bit of a doze. Oh, well, I'm going to wait for a couple more people to join us. Then I'll crack into tonight's story. It's not really much of a story. It's something most of us actually of a certain generation experience, but it's just my observations from that night and how it made me wake up. And then we'll have a natter about it afterwards, have a laugh and a joke. You guys can chat on the chat, get to know one another, swap ideas, point your fingers at me and laugh. I don't mind, you giggle away. And tonight, hi Jim. Jim, I will be getting back to you. I got your email today. I will be getting back to you very soon. Lee, hiya, happy St. George's Day to you too, my friend. And I'm on. It looks like alcohol tonight. I'm not. I'm actually on shandy. I decided to avoid the alcohol. Makes me a bit wobbly. And I will let you all know I have been having nightmares with my internet all day. So if it all goes down and dies, I will just sob in the corner. Hi Ray, how you doing, mate? Yeah, right. Jim, me and you are going to get together. Swindon, that ain't too far out from me, mate. I'm on the M3 at Farnborough, so always have a dive down that. Maybe meet up and get out into the wilds down there some point. Yeah, wonderful. Well, welcome, guys. Hope you've all had a good day. As I said, the alert test today, that was exciting, wasn't it? It'll make me jump. But again, as I said the other day, I've got no problem with it. I'd rather have information than no information. I did get a message from somebody this week asking me about what coffee sachets I use when I'm out and about. And I thought about it. I thought, well, what do I use? So just a quick one, just on the warm-up tonight. So let's get the thermal mug out. See what I've got in the thermal mug. I haven't emptied this one in a while because this one lives in the car. So those who are interested, local pound shops to me do 12 of those. So that's white with sugar for I think about £1.25, I think it is. Or you can get the blue version, which is white with no sugar. Okay. Excellent. So that's the two main sachets I go to, and why they don't taste too bad. And when you're out in the woods, really, you're not choosy. You just want a hot drink. I mean, things like the Nescafe cappuccinos, they're all right, but tend to be a bit claggy. You usually just want a coffee. Something else I throw in the mug just when I need it is, excuse me, I've got to sneeze. Do excuse me, I haven't taken a hay fever tablet today. It's just literally jam in a tube. And again, it's an instant energy hit. It's worth having in your kit. Find one that's a flavour you enjoy. You get out there, you start running down on energy, and that it's a slurp and a burp, and you're off and running again. Phil, I tell you, a lot of people I've been speaking to said their phones didn't go off. I think they're selecting those that are going to survive and those that ain't. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Burger King, whip theirs. I'm always having their sugar away. Uh, um, I may have acquired that from MOD ration packs. Got 3 or 4 mates that are still serving, and they a couple of them hate this stuff. So every time they go on an excess, they do you want us to bring you back some more jam? Do you want us to bring us back some more hot chocolate? So yeah, don't throw it in the skip. I'll have it. So that's just how I get it. But I shall ask my darling wife. Now, Caroline is a bit of a genius when it comes to sourcing things. So I shall say, Kaz, can you see if we can source that anywhere from the public world? And she'll figure it out. And then, of course, never forget your buddies. Just plain, I hate the stuff. Just plain coffee granules, because there's always somebody in a survival situation that will go, "Oh, but I drink black coffee." It's a survival situation. You'll drink what you get. Be grateful. What I do like, if I'm having a treat when I'm going out, and I like them in the morning, normally I get it's on Amazon, I believe. There's a company, Black Donkey. They do coffee bags, pretty much the same as these. For those that haven't seen them before, I like filter coffee. I've always liked filter coffee, but basically, it's your filter coffee in a bag. Slap that in a hot cup. It smells delicious. Slap that in a hot cup. Yeah, you're away. No messing, no hassle, no messing about with granules and things like that. Me and Jace do the old cowboy coffee when we're out occasionally. We've got a pot, we do that in. But again, that can also be a bit of a faff. Yeah, swaps. Yeah, or gizzits. That was the other one. So, yeah, find the gizzits. Speak to the unit that you're doing the exercise with. What gizzits have they got? Yeah, okay. That's shiny gizzit to me. Yeah, and again, that's my car mug. So that all lives in there. Screwed up. I've got enough coffee to get me through the night. Another one I throw in there is a pack of chewing gum. You know, it's foul stuff, but at the end, early hours of the morning, sitting in the car, it's a little bit of a something better. Yeah. Yeah, she does get dibs on the mint hot chocolate. Yeah, she will fight me for that. In fact, to the point where I no longer touch the MOD hot chocolate. That is the domain of my wife. Yeah. Oh dear. It's the thing is, it's quite weird. See, I know a lot of American servicemen that absolutely loathe their rations and love ours. And the only thing, 2 things I've had out of the American ration packs that both times I could not get my head around and I don't like. I just can't get my head around it and don't like it. It's pizza, or as they call it, preserved pizza. And the other one was ham and egg omelette. Now, it's 2 things I don't want preserved for a long period of time. It's ham and egg. God, that was foul. I hated it. Just kept reminding me of the old green eggs and ham, Sam I am. Yeah, keep that. It was disgusting. But there we go. Yeah, Dog Dad, that's it. Waste not, want not. You just get the same thing with the cadets on our training areas. Yeah, just give them a bin bag. There you go, guys. What you don't use, chuck in there. Don't chuck it all over the training area. Definitely don't bury it. And please don't use your screech powder to make explosives. Yeah, absolutely disgusting stuff. Anyhow, I hope I'm going to like my cigar. I hope everybody's feeling fine. I hope everybody's had a good week. Nobody's had too many dramas. Had a bit of a drama towards the end of the week. Front suspension on my Land Rover as finally, yeah, so the airbags are leaking like a good one. They got to be done. So I have to get that booked in to get that sorted. So, Sort of carless. She'll let me do sort of up the town and back. That's about it. But that's all in order. That's just going to be a week or two before I can get that sorted. So getting out might be a little bit of a pain over the next week or two. I'm going to have to use local area. And I've got a couple of ideas for things to do from here. And a couple of other bits and pieces I want to sort out. Anyhow, story for tonight. Okay, I sat there and I thought, I've got rakes of stories, and some I don't want to go over on YouTube. And you all know the stories, the Peruvian plane crash and that. No, we don't. We all know what happened. We all know what occurred, and I'd rather not go through it. I like stories, survival stories that you can share with public. And I'm constantly aware I never know who's watching this. Somebody might have their young ones in the background listening. Then I don't want to give them something that's absolutely going to give them the willies. So we stay away from that sort of thing. However, if we get together at any time, more or less happy to discuss anything with you. So let's get into it. It's October the 15th, 1987. At night, I was due to be on duty at the guardroom, Queen Elizabeth Barracks, Stoughton, Guildford. Some of you that were in are going to go, hey? Yeah, I was on duty there. Between the hours of 2200 and 0600 in the morning, male security on that camp, as it was a Women's Royal Army Corps training camp. Okay, so it was mostly female instructors, few male instructors on camp, lived on camp, and the recruits. And the recruits were in big blocks. It's a team of 4 of us that look after the security on the camp at night. So that would involve perimeter checks, building checks, general security patrols, manning the gate. So usually one on gate, one in the guard room. The gate was just a standard military blockhouse, 10 by 15 foot, but next to the gate, brick wall, flat roof. We've all seen them. And then the guard room sat a bit further back, and we would man that basically to give security for the camp. Mainly stopping young chaps in maroon t-shirts tromping their way down from Aldershot and attempting to get over the fence, which used to happen on occasion. Anyhow, I left for work. I lived in Cranley at the time with darling Kaz, or my lovely Kaz, and I lived in Cranley. So Cranley to Guildford is about 12 to 15 miles, and I used to ride a motorbike. And I left that evening about the normal time, which would have been about 8:30. Gave Kaz a kiss, packed my lunch, stuck my gear on my bike, and off I went. And I was a little bit elderly, so off I went, rode into work, and I'll be honest with you, got there, and it was a normal October's evening. A little bit of a chill in the air. The leaves are still on the tree. It's a bit damp, and I got to work, signed in, booked in, took over the logs, saw the female DS off, and we took over the camp. And my first patrol that night was a perimeter check. So basically, she's just out with a torch, bimble right around the perimeter fence, check all that, check all the gates are locked, look for any holes, make sure everything is secure. Takes about an hour and 15 minutes to do it properly. Came back in from that, swapped that out, took a set of keys, went down, did a quick building check, which entailed checking things like the armory, the MT section, the map section, the gymnasiums, making sure everything's secured, the cookhouses, the laundry, and that it's all secured. 2,200 hours in them days on that camp, it was shut down time. There was very few people moving around, apart from the DS maybe going through to and from their quarters, which they were quite entitled to do. As for the recruits, they were in their blocks. Okay, and I did that, finished that off. Oh, it must have been sort of around midnight. And I'm having to generalise here on a few of the timings because obviously it's a long time ago. And I finished that off and I came back, saw the lads that were on, and we used to do a rolling duty. So you'd go into the guard room, you'd do a duty in the guard room, then onto the gate, then out onto patrols. Then you'd have 15, 20-minute break or whatever, stretch it out 30 minutes if you got away with it. And a tea room was actually, because it was a women's camp, they gave us what was originally a bomb shelter. It was basically a little bomb shelter under a block. And it was an admin block. It actually went underneath. It was like a little cellar, which was done out quite nicely. Had a little tea room down there, a couple of comfy chairs, brew kit, and all that. And I'm sat down there. I digress. Should go back a bit. When I did the building check, I actually remember remarking to the lads, "Bloody hell, it's getting warm." Right? There was no rain. It's half getting warm, isn't it? So I'll do this in shirt sleeve order. So I took the get off, rolled my sleeves up, looked nice and smart, put me out on. Off I went, not a problem. Did that, came back, like I say, went down to the cellar to have my brew. I was on what we call first break. So I sat down having my break, reading my paper, minding my own. And one of the lads comes to the top of the stairs, opens the door, shouts down, "Hey, bring your wet kit when you come back up. It's really getting windy up here." So, "All right, mate, no worries, not a problem." And usually that was a hint, like, get your arse in gear because it's your turn to take over on the gate or in the guard room. So, oh yeah, right, fair enough. Finished my cup of tea, and I got to admit, the team, the four of us, it was pretty relaxed. If you were 5 minutes late swapping over, it was 5 minutes late swapping over. We worked together regularly. We didn't. Nobody got really arsey about it. You just wanted to get through the shift. That was it. Yeah, so it was quite pleasant, and I wasn't expecting anything. And I walked back up these stairs, and proper old concrete bomb shelter stairs. You go up like 8 steps, turn up 8 steps, turn, and there's a door. Open the door, and as I put my hand on the door and opened the door, it went bang. And I thought, that's bloody wind. Yeah, where did that come from? And I come up and I stood in the entrance of the doorway, and at that time, I suppose the wind was probably 25 to 40 mile an hour gusting, and it was bloody windy. There was leaves, because everything still had leaves on it at the time. So there's leaves blowing past, bits of twig blowing past, and that. And I thought, it's going to be a crap night. That is, and it's going to be a grotty ride home in the morning. Never mind. Let's get on with it. And I went over and I took over in the guard room, and the guard room there, big old 1960s, 70s Steins design guard room, big square window in the front and that. And I sat down behind the desk, phone's in front of me. I didn't actually sit down straight at the desk. I went and made another coffee, courtesy of the guard room staff, with their gear, made a coffee, sat down. And I'm looking out the window and I'm watching this wind get harder and harder. And sometimes I'm thinking, bloody hell's this? Almost like a summer storm. That's what I thought at the time. Anyway, I'm just going to check my notes. Yeah. So, yeah, about 1:30. Yeah. It wasn't too bad. Yeah, that's it. I've just looked at my notes here. About 2 o'clock. About 2 o'clock, you heard a roaring. And I've heard people have said to me in the past, okay, it sounds like a roaring. A hurricane or a tornado. Sounds like a train on the tracks going full chat. Okay, it did. Before it hit us, before the wind went mental, you heard it. And you didn't just hear it for a few seconds, you heard it for minutes. You just like, what the hell is that? It was like listening to an aircraft take off in the distance. It was the same sort of wind up of engines. And unlike winds I'd heard before, it wasn't a howl. It wasn't a whistle. It was a roar. It was quite unnerving. And then it hit us, and it hit like a train. It came, big iron gates at the entrance to the camp, which were literally over to my left, and they were huge. They're 10-foot iron gates, padlocked up, They just went bang, and that was it. The wind had hit. It was hellacious, and it brought with it everything. Right? The first thing I still remember to this day seeing go past that window, and it was a moment where you go, "Da, hell's that?" was a sheet of corrugated plastic, probably off of somebody's porch or their gazebo or whatever. But it was just it went fast. It just you looked at it and went, bloody hell, you've never seen anything like this other than on the TV in the States or in the tropics. And with that came just a mass of leaves and debris. And of course, young, I mean, let's face it, early 20s then, you're young, you're full of urine and wind, shall we say. She got up and blimey, went out, opened the door, stood in the lee of the building, and just watched this debris go past. And very quickly realised the visibility was dropping rapidly. And at the height of that storm, visibility was probably 20 feet. At that time, it was about 50 feet, and it was moisture. It was just pure. Evening, Jace, just pure moisture. It wasn't a fog. It was just dense, and it wasn't cold. It had a warmth to it. I mean, the wind chill, obviously, with the high speed of the wind, yeah, that was one thing, but it had a humidity to it. Later, I would learn that what had happened is the storm had actually come in up through the Bay of Biscay. So what it had done is it had brought up warm air off the sea. And the reason we could taste salt was, again, it coming off the sea, but it coming so fast. Now, before I carry on with the story, I did doing my research into this story was that the Met Office have been accused ever since of getting it wrong. Well, they didn't really. Their computer programs, everything they had, everything they knew, the whole experience they had ever had before, said that this storm was going to actually track through France, and we might get the very, very edge of it hitting southern England or the Channel. So they had put out an alert to shipping from the Bay of Biscay to the North Sea to expect gale force winds and extreme conditions. Now, at the time, in 1987, the Met Office relied on shipping reports, i.e., reports coming in from shipping on the sea state, to allow them to track storms. The satellite technology at the time, although it was there, wasn't particularly good or accurate. And it was only once the storm actually came ashore or hit the shore on and around Devon and Dorset that they started getting up to date reports. By 11 o'clock that night, they had alerted the MOD, and they had started to alert people they thought needed to know, but they still did not expect this storm to crash the way that it did as it came inland. Normally, a storm like that would peter out, and always in the past it petered out, but this one just kept coming. So the Met Office were accused, and lots of the guys like Prof. Michael Fish saying there's there's not a hurricane coming. Although he was right, it wasn't a hurricane. Got hammered for it. They were the scapegoats. The thing I would like to point out at this point, they may have been scapegoats. They may have been accused of making it wrong. However, they saved many, 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 many lives by getting it wrong. If you think about it, if somebody turned around to you this evening and said to you, storm of the century is going to hit Britain. They did me. And I've got all the names here. I'll be reading them out later. Storm of the century is going to hit Britain. What would people have done? I Bushcrafty, people would have panicked, and people would have been out there on ladders trying to shore up their windows. People would have gone late night shopping. People would have panicked. There would have been a lot more people dead. Okay. Most people weren't expecting it. It was a pleasant evening. Like I say, it got warm before the storm hit, and they would have been crashed out. Anyhow, back to my side of the story. So, 2 o'clock in the morning, it hit. It hit where I was, and it was mental. I remember one of the lads in the team, actually pointing out across the back of towards Purbright from Guildford, and he said, "Look at that, lightning." Okay, well, it wasn't lightning. 3 o'clock in the morning is when the National Grid shut all power down to London and the south. Basically, there was such a mess in the power system that it would risk overloading the grid countrywide. So what they did, for the first time in history, they actually closed off the power to the south. Okay, that included London, central London. Hospitals were notified beforehand. Go to emergency generators, and at that point, losing power, we lost all our comms. Phone system was already playing up, and that was down. Our radios went down, and where we were so far out of Aldershot, we had to rely on mains powered sets rather than handheld sets to get hold of people like MPGS and MOD Guard Service and MOD Police and that. So we were now isolated. That was it, screwed. One of the lads quite quickly hit on the fact that we had a little FM radio, got on that, and I believe it was 106 used to be the frequency on that for the local police, Surrey Police. So we tuned into that, and very quickly realised there was going to be no help from police. There was no help from fire brigade. There was going to be no help for ambulance, because the reports we were picking up on that, bear in mind, we obviously can't send, but we could receive their messages, we could hear them, was they were as screwed as we were. The majority of the police officers were either told to shelter in place, all right, until this blew itself out, or were trapped. Yeah, you could hear quite panicked police officers. One that I remember listening to near Hindhead, who was stuck in a road with trees in front and behind him and couldn't go anywhere, panicking. Okay. So it was, it was one of those situations. If the Met Office had announced it, I believe many would have died. Anyhow, on with my story. With taste salt in the air, mayhem, carrying out checks. Right, moving round. There you go. So I've been thinking about this for days. I've been going through. So moving around the camp. So bear in mind, we could not leave the camp. We had to secure the camp. At this point, we realised we've got recruits in buildings. So what we did was we made our way to the recruit buildings or the recruit accommodation. And the only way we could do this was we literally had to detour through the camp, hugging buildings and trying to stay on the leeward side. And it was one of my mates, Phil, at the time, he said to us, he said, "Christ, we're on the leeward side. If one of these roofs lifts off, we're under it." So sort of darting along, looking up, terrified that the roof was going to come off and watching the debris disappear into the distance. Anyhow, we got to the blocks. A lot of the windows had already gone. And basically, we got people sheltering in the hallways. The blocks came in central hallways. So we got them into the hallways, got them to close the doors, and basically told them to bed down in the hallways for the night so that they were out of the risk of glass, debris, and so on. And that was a rush job. The DS, we linked up with them, and they pretty much went up and took over their accommodation, because for obvious reasons, we're male, it's a female camp. So although we did initially burst into blocks telling everybody to get to cover, we were pretty soon told by the DS, "Get your asses out of here." Okay, so that was it. We spent the rest of the night, we watched the laundry take off, blow itself apart. It's a weird thing to see how pressure affects a building, and it will literally make it explode. And this was the laundry there was basically what I would call an old like barrack shed. And it just, well, once the windows went, that was it. The building imploded, disappeared. Lots of asbestos sheeting came off the cookhouse, came off the parade square on the training or the drill sheds. Yeah, that stuff was flying around like you wouldn't believe. And also, because the camp was surrounded by a housing estate, we started to get things like tiles, stuff you couldn't even describe. It was just, the air was just filled with it. It was terrible. And that pretty much got to its height at about 4 o'clock. By 4 o'clock, you couldn't move outside. You couldn't walk. You definitely couldn't run. You couldn't skip between the buildings. The wind was that powerful that you literally took short steps, leant over well over 45 degrees, and you were just short stepping. You were keeping as much, it's almost hugging the ground. And you just went for it everywhere you went. You tried to just keep grip, hanging on to things like walls and windows, and trying to keep into the lee of the building so the building just broke the wind up. It was bloody awful, but we got through the night. Trees, every tree on the camp, literally every tree, watched them go down. Absolutely horrific, absolutely horrific. And then dawn came, and it was the weirdest thing in the world, because with the lightning of the sky, it was like somebody turned it off, and it went as fast as it came. It was a shock. It was literally, that storm finished as fast as it came. It was a bright orange sky that morning. It was one of those. If it hadn't have been for the storm, you would have said it was a beautiful sunrise. It was a sunrise after a storm. There was enough moisture and cloud in the air to reflect the light, and it was beautiful. However, the silence, it was deathly. No birds, no vehicles, no people. And I thought, there's going to be people in the streets, in a hell of a state. No people in the streets. People have slept through it. People have lost best part of their roof and still bloody slept through it. It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. It was like, where am I the only, or we the only people that went through this? And I became quite scared. I was quite terrified. I'd seen that all night long, and I suddenly realised, my mum, my dad, and my three younger brothers live in a rural part of Guildford. My wife, my partner, lives in Cranley, where I live. And I was like, well, that was it. As fast as I could. Bear in mind, we were supposed to finish at 6 in the morning. As fast as we could that morning, we all handed over to the DS, and they were like, well, where you going? I'm out of here. I'm going home. I've got family. You're all safe. Got everything you need. It's the military. You've only got to wait. Somebody will come. It'll be sorted. You've got a cookhouse full of food down there. You've got all the kit you need. You get on with it. I'm out of here. And we did. We all went our separate ways, wished one another luck, and went home. Well, I rode a motorcycle then. And it was only a little 200cc Honda. It was a little Honda CD, I believe, 200 Bentley. Just a cheap little twin motorcycle, luckily enough, and it was light. And I had to travel back to my parents' house at Merrow. I decided I'll go check on the family first, mum and dad and that. They're quite rural, and then I'll go back to Cranley. And I knew it was going to be hours to get home. And it was literally, I'm riding a motorcycle and I'm going round things, and then I'm having to lift the bike over things. Some places I actually laid the bike on its deck and slid it under branches and under debris. Constantly aware of things like power lines, see telegraph poles down. There was just, the amount of debris in the roads was unbelievable. It took me several hours to get the 6 miles. I think it was about 2 hours to get the 6 miles to my mum and dad's. And I say quite rural, and that was hilarious because I literally got there and they were like, "All right, what are you doing?" Yeah. It was a hell of a storm, wasn't it? Yeah. We got the range fired up. We've been out, checked the chickens. They're fine. Everything's good here. Not a problem at all. It's like, you know, power's down. They've got the range fired up. They don't care. They're all sorted. Dinner's on or breakfast's on. Not a problem. Chickens were the most important thing. They survived the night. Their house survived. It was like, right, what are you going to do? You're going to stay here? You're going to try and get back to Cranley? And so I then made my way back to Cranley, and that took all day. It took me nearly 10 hours to get back to Cranley. And again, it was the same thing. I was going, because for those who don't know, Cranley's pretty much on the Surrey Hills. And to go from Guildford to Cranley, you've got to go through parts of Surrey Hills. It's really, really quite wooded. And it was hell. I was going up into people's gardens, round fallen trees, back out. I was cutting across bits of field where I knew I could. It would lift a bike over things, under things again, and get home. And again, eventually I got home. Well, that's pretty much my story of it. So I also sat and did some research. So here's some facts and figures for you from that storm that night. It wasn't a hurricane. In actual fact, it was 4 times larger than a hurricane in the area that it covered. And its density and the drop in pressure was 4 times greater than a hurricane whilst it was over the Bay of Biscay. It did drop slightly as it hit the UK. It tracked in through pretty much the edge of Dorset, Hampshire. It tracked along the south coast and then swung up through London and out through the Wash into the North Sea, where it decided to die. Okay. Let's see. Never behaved as expected. It was predicted, but didn't behave as expected. It's weather, or wink or bite. So, here's a little fact for you of interest. Again, looking this up, came across this interesting fact. For those of you that have ever seen the Royal Albert Concert Hall, if you weighed all the air that's inside the main auditorium, it would weigh 30 tons. Get that moving at 70 miles an hour. That gives you an idea of the impact. The emergency services received 4 months' worth of calls in one night. No. At 3 a.m., the south of England, including London, first time in its history, the entire National Grid section in that area was closed down to protect the system from overloading countrywide. Yeah. On top of the BT Tower in the centre of London, the Met Office wind meter reached its maximum speed of 108 miles an hour before breaking its mounts and disappearing forever. Shows. There were reports of looting in centre of London, and the emergency services from Birmingham to the south of England called on every single man to turn out. And they did. Most of the high-rise buildings in London lost their windows. And again, the only information that people could get, even when they were getting up in the morning, was on local radio. TV was down, phones were down, and of course we had no mobiles then. So across Britain, people woke to news of devastation via the radio. All the roads in southern England were pretty much blocked. All the power was down. There was roofs on roads, telegraph poles down. The Surrey Hills were literally impassable. 15 million trees down. 90% of the forests in southern England were destroyed. Aftermath. The damage was estimated at 2 billion at that time, which in today's money would be 5.9 billion. 1 in 6 homes were damaged. In the aftermath, the authorities called on volunteers to assist the councils, the military, and anybody to clear trees off of roads and homes, which took 6 weeks to get the south cleared. Some small and isolated homes in rural areas were without power for up to 2 months, as the roads just couldn't be cleared. Kaz worked at a supermarket in Cranley, and she got up to a mess and went to work. Their management decided very early on that they would have to limit the food. They would have to limit the food and supplies, especially for the elderly in the area. And people did start panic buying. people were told 1 loaf of bread, 1 pint of milk, and they would go out, come back 2 minutes later. Oh, no, I haven't been in before. They sussed them out, and they actually ended up having violence offered towards male members of staff who were trying to make sure that everybody got their fair share. Okay. So they faced effects of violence. Disgusting. Power was back on in a day in a lot of the major villages. It was in Cranley. I know I couldn't get back to work for a couple of days, so we got our power back within a day. And I'd always like to thank the Scottish and Welsh power guys, because they were amazing. They come out and they were, we had Southern Power at the time. They used to dealing in the south. These lads that came in from Scotland and Wales, they were used to being up in mountains, and they were used to windy conditions. That you watch them go through trees with their chainsaws like you wouldn't believe. They knew what they were doing. Okay. Some of my own notes, and it's only something that we talked about afterwards. My dad noticed it. We had a pet crow. He said, should have known something was up. Where did all the birds go? He said, Beaky, our pet crow, was going mental in the afternoon. Absolutely mental. He said, and the other crows and jackdaws that lived around our property, he said, they all cleared off. There wasn't a sound of them. He said, you couldn't hear a bird in the evening or in the afternoon. They cleared off. So birds pick up on these things, I suppose. Harm to wildlife. It's incredible. The damage it did to the wildlife, not just the trees and the plants, but just the wildlife, deer, squirrels. Yeah, it's made a mess. Made out of a mess. I won't go into that too much. Communities that were cut off, they sorted themselves out. People came together. People volunteered. Scout groups, all sorts of things got together. They cleared roads and they helped people. One thing that's always hit me hard, and I moved up to the south as a young man and was amazed after living in Cornwall. The woods that I got to know, these ancient forests, I'll never see the like of them again in my lifetime. They will take hundreds of years to come back, and it's a real shame, especially for young people today who've never seen a proper oak forest in southern England, and they will take hundreds of years to come back. So I'm not crying, I've got an itch. Okay, another point I'd like to make, okay, before I finish this little section off, and it's something that I've thought about in the last few years, is when things did get better and they started to come back together, and this is a point I'd like to make to you all. No one asked for recognition. No one clapped. No one declared heroes. Everybody just got on with it. The communities came together. People that didn't speak to one another in streets, they all got together and they dealt with it. And I think it's the last time in the UK anything like that has ever occurred where people just dealt with it. Okay? It was a hell of a night. And before we get on to other subjects and that sort of things, I would just like to say this. Tonight, this story is dedicated to David Gregory and Graham White, 2 firemen that were killed in Dorset by a falling tree responding to help people. Mrs. Beryl Arger, John Barton, Patricia Bellwood, David Birch, who was lost at sea, Sylvia Brown, Anthony Burton, Ronald Davis, Robert Doak, Robert Homewood, Ronald Horlock, who also was lost at sea, Terence Moran, James Reed, Sidney Riches, Sasami Shilling, and Georgina Wells. All those people lost their lives that night in that storm. Okay? And I've often thought how lucky I was being out in it all night. So that's my reminiscence of the Great Storm of 1987. It's my notes. I should chuck those to one side. It was, for a young man who had a bit of responsibility, a bit of a shock of a night, but I learned from it. And It was amazing. Absolutely amazing. I'd experience it again. Anyhow, so that was my story tonight. Not so much of survival, but of what can go wrong. Okay. So don't always trust your weather forecasts. Prepare for the worst. And keep your heads down if it starts. If you're ever out and you hear something literally, it's a roaring, just get to cover. Get to cover. Anyhow, let's see what you lot have been nattering about what's been there. Space Raiders Chris, bottle of Pound Pop, mystery meat sandwiches. The mystery meat. Yeah. It was a hell of a night. And I will say, Rick, your son was born that night. Excellent. Well, that was a hell of a night, wasn't it? Bit of a worry. Yeah, it's not a great experience. It's not a great experience at the time, but you know what? Doesn't it leave you in awe of nature? When you're doing something like that. Afterwards, going to sea. I've been through a couple of storms at sea. Absolutely amazing. You know, it's absolutely yeah. I'm just in awe of nature. It reminds you who's in charge. And if you're talking about hot boxes and food out and about, those you have served, you get that famous treat when you're out on the ranges or you're out on an exercise. They bring the hot box meal out. Who can remember things like fish and chips? Oh, never had soggy fish and chips. Or cheese and onion pasty, which was basically a pastry with nothing in it. Boscombe Hospital. Yeah, it's the destruction afterwards. Reminds us we're absolutely tiny. And again, that's where all this comes in. It's that equipping, the knowledge, the understanding. I had no idea, other than growing up in the West Country or in North Cornwall, quite close to the coast. I was used to wind, but then everything we've got down there is built for that. I mean, even our trees down there lean over. I mean, they all point inland. There's a saying in North Cornwall: if you get lost and you want to go to Bodmin, the trees point the way. Okay, so yeah, was used to wind, but just wasn't used to the destruction. Wasn't used to destruction, and it'll come again. Eating mink. Come on, Caroline. You and I had to fight off a mink one afternoon. I don't eat one of them stinky things. I've kept ferrets. Yeah, dog dad, exactly that. Exactly that. Be prepared. You know, that old Boy Scout thing, be prepared. In fact, actually, I don't know if any of you have read it. I'm always looking at new books and that all the time. And obviously, yeah, you know, I've got all Dave Canterbury's books. They're always worth a read. Got my old Bible. Can't go wrong with that. But I picked this one up. I've heard about the chap a couple of times, and I've never met him. I wouldn't mind meeting him. He sounds like he's got his head switched on. But I picked up that one. Okay. That I'd recommend. It's very well written. Very well written. Doesn't have too much faffing about in it. Okay. It's a really good read. And I would put it on par with the SS Survival Guide for Information. Yeah, very, very practical, very, very good book. I picked that one up off of Amazon as a used edition, and I think I paid about a fiver for it. So yeah, well worth the money. I'm still only a third into it, but it's one of those books I picked up last night, and I've read so many books on survival, bushcraft, and that. And to be honest with you, I've probably given away more than I've kept, purely simply because you get page one. Oh, somebody's copied the SAS survival manual, or somebody's just, oh God, here we go again, and it's the same old, same old. Way this guy writes, yeah, it's practical, it's information. I picked up new stuff in there. I started reading it last night, couldn't put it down. It was lots of very, very good information. Never stop learning, never stop sharing from other people. One of my go-tos over the years is learning from Indigenous people and First Nations. Find out their techniques, find out how they get on, what they deal with, and how they survive, and go back to the absolute basics. And again, first piece of equipment is in there. The second bit of equipment's on your back, and it's knowing what to carry, what to have with you, what the alternatives are, having your plan set up. Oh, how long have we been going tonight? 52 minutes already. Right, that's a bit better. Excellent, excellent. Yeah. Lofty, absolute genius of a man. Absolutely. And again, it's the truth of the matter is he's got a genuine love of what he taught. And that's an important thing. Yeah. Yeah. Tells it straight. Absolute love of what he does. Absolutely fantastic guy. I've been over the years. I'm quite tempted to pick up one of the Lofty Wiseman survival tools, but actually, when I look at it, I think if I was going out into the Amazon and that, I might take it with me. But for the UK, I don't think I need it. And with these new changes to the knife laws that are coming in, where we're now going to have machetes outlawed entirely as lethal, dangerous weapons because some group of scropes go charging around a city centre with them. Well, what's next? Yeah. It's like I've always said to people, if a man wants to use a knife to damage you, he'll use a knife to damage you. And if he's not got a knife, he'll use a spoon. Yeah, get a prank. Yeah. Yeah. So me, as you see, I've got a selection turn up there. And I should be doing a couple of demonstrations of hedge laying and that on videos this year if any of you are interested. Yeah. Yeah, about 60 quid for a parang. Good tool. Good jungle tool. Go locks. Although, I mean, the British Army Go locks probably about that long. It's not the best tool in the world. They're a little bit light, but if you go out into places like South America, where you'll see more traditional go locks that are actually like 2.5, 3 feet. And it's that having that weight towards the tip. It's like cookeries. I'm always chuckling about cookeries because everybody thinks of the cookery as the standard, pretty much military cookery. If you go to Nepal, every tribe or every village literally has their own design of a cookery, and cookeries come in all lengths and sizes to some real whoppers. I mean, sort of 3 foot blades. Bloody great things. It's an interesting bit of knowledge for you. Word cookery actually means a blade of grass, or it describes a blade of grass. When you think of the shape of a cookery, that's where that comes from. A lot of people think it's to do with Kali. No, nothing at all to do with Kali. Actually, do with the blade of grass. That's what it describes. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm a happy man. I'm a happy man. So where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Let's get it down. I don't know, where have I put that? Where have I put that now? I'll tell you where I put it. I put it in my bag. Idiot, running around. Don't excuse me, guys. Yeah. So I've got my new bivvy bag. And as I said on the short, yes, it's MTP. I know people are going to go, oh, it's not DPM. I don't care. It keeps the weather out. It keeps me comfortable. It makes it easy for me to have lightweight camps. And it is brand new condition. I was absolutely blown away. You see all the adverts online. Yeah, bivvy bag, A1 condition, and you get it. You've got a couple of little holes in it, and you guarantee those little holes are the ones that are going to leak. That came, it's brand new. It's even still got the sealant on the seams. So it's probably, I think, been issued for recruit who's binned it, because speaking to a mate, kit is not allowed to be reissued anymore. So as soon as that kit comes back into stores as handed back in, it's disposed of. So yeah, whoever bottled it and binned it, cheers, mate. I got your bivvy bag. So, and as Max said, most underrated piece of military kit in use. Yeah, for those of us that were around before bivvy bags, many soggy nights. With the advent of Gore-Tex and the bivvy bag, brilliant bit of kit. Yeah. No, sure. So a lot of Dutch kit is based on British kit. The British and the Dutch have shared stuff for donkey's years. I mean, even down to vehicles. I mean, I rebuilt Max lightweight, and I drove that for many years. Lovely little vehicle. The Dutch, all theirs were diesel when we were still running petrol, and they had Series 3 Land Rovers or Series 3 lightweights with diesel engines in, but they shared kit, they shared technology. A lot of gear is interchangeable, Dutch and British, even down to the camo. They swap a lot of ideas. And the Dutch being the Dutch, although don't get me wrong, I won't knock their forces, bloody good soldiers, but they're not quite so ready to get involved in stuff as we are, and therefore their kit didn't modernise quite as quick. So they tended to have so you can still get the ponchos, Dutch ponchos that are still in issue now, that are made with modern materials. However, we no longer get a poncho. Yeah. The other thing I have noticed with that one is they've got the wider necks now, which is a lot better. And me and Mac will be demonstrating. Well, I say demonstrating. We got a little job to do, so we're going to be setting up an OP to do the job, and we're probably going to film that as best we can to give you an idea of what you can do. Yeah, hoop bivvies, awesome. They are a little bit on the heavy side, but then when you're talking about kit, so a bivvy bag, for what a bivvy bag is, basically it is a shelter system. You climb into it with your sleep system, and you are going to survive even the worst, most atrocious conditions. Keeps the moisture out, it keeps the wind off, which is its essential job. I would rather carry a heavy bivvy bag than a tent. I've lost tents in storms, as Mac will tell you. So yeah, if it's a little bit of weight for the better equipment, then I'd have it. Yeah. Lavoo, I can recommend to you, Lee. Absolutely brilliant bit of kit. Don't get caught up on the sizes. Oh, everybody keeps on about you've got to have a size 3, and you'll pay 80, 90 quid more for a size 3, and you'll probably find one that's in a poor condition. I've got a size 2. I'm 5'9". I can sprawl out in that. I can have my hot stove in that. I can get another person in that if I needed to with a bit of a shove. I can get all my kit in it. Absolutely brilliant bit of kit. Make sure whoever you order it through, you're getting the complete kit. You're getting the poles, the pegs, as well as the both sections, because I have heard of people that have ordered their Lavoo and all they've got is one half section. It's and it's, I tell you what, the other thing with the Lavoo, in the summer, I quite often take just half section out with me. Brilliant poncho, absolutely brilliant piece of poncho kit, and makes a brilliant open fronted shelter. So with each cape, which is what it is at the end of the day, each cape you'll get one of these, which is your poles. There's 3 aluminium poles there. They've got a plastic end on one end, and that's for holding it up, obviously. But it's a simple thing that I like, and it is, I suppose, being a simple lad, simple pleasures. The tent pegs are curved, so that they slide into the tubes, store in there in that bag, and that has no weight to it at all. Not even a small can of beer. Right? It is no weight, and the canvas is brilliant quality. I really, any of you that can ever get the chance of grabbing a Lavoo, grab it for the weight of it, and it is heavy. But if you want to do winter camping, I would recommend the Lavoo. And then either build yourself a stove, an ammo tin, stove, tent stove. Sorry, brain injuries kicking in today, really giving me some grief. Or even if you can pick yourself up a cheap tent stove, I picked one up. I think I paid about 80, 90 quid for mine from Amazon. It's unbranded, but you've all seen it on the videos. It's absolutely brilliant for what it is. And again, if you're going to carry the Lavoo out, yeah, might as well have that. Yeah, it's just adapt the kit. Yeah, the Lavoo is definitely Polish. You've got some Hungarian. I mean, most of the, don't want to upset anybody out there, maybe for name, but most of the former Soviet bloc countries ran the same sort of system, varying in materials. The Hungarian ones, I believe, there's a lot of them on the market at the moment, and from what I gather, they're not too bad. I've not had a look at one myself, but exactly the same sort of system. But I think the Polish ones were the best built. Yeah, you can't really go wrong with that. And again, winter camping. yeah, I mean, obviously take a ground sheet with you and practice with it. They're a bit smart, bit of a technique to put them up. When you do yours, when you finally get it, basically get it out, button it up together, peg all the base out, then push the center up, then adjust. And what I tend to do, I put tensioning lines out where you've got the armholes, they're buttoned and they button up on the inside and the outside. And I just put a loop of paracord on, run it out. In actual fact, what I'll do in the next few weeks, I will get out, I'll do a Lavoo video, just show you how I set mine up and that. In fact, what I probably won't do a Lavoo video. What I'll do, I'll take out the complete Lavoo. Me and Mac will do an overnighter using the 2 sections as open front shelters, set up a fire in the centre, show you how that works, because that really is a go-to. Brilliant bit of kit. Yeah, and we've got the off-road trailer. Goes behind the Land Rover, because as you're all aware, Kaz is not has mobility issues, so we've got a system set up for her. Yeah, gotta get out there, gotta enjoy it all. I was thinking as well of doing. See, I had somebody go on me, "Oh, could you do an improvised shelter up the woods and build a forest shelter?" Trouble is, I could, but I think it's not doing justice to people in an emergency when you start sort of spending 2 days building a forest shelter. When the reality of it is, in a survival situation, invariably you're down to, if you're lucky, a couple of hours to get some sort of shelter rigged. And yes, you can rig lots of low-level one-man shelters, but from my own experience, you usually tend to be with other people, and you've usually got something like a vehicle or equipment of some sort that you can bodge together and use. So again, I tend to be very much, if you're going into a rural area, throw a tarp in the floor of the Land Rover. In fact, back of my motor, there's always a tarp. Where I used to do game management, the amount of deer carcasses I've had in the back of the car, so I've always had just a cheap, 4x4 plastic tarp folded up into 4, laid on the floor of the boot of the car. Push comes to shove, I shelter 8 people under that with no problem at all. So again, it's what I try and instill into people is to be that little bit equipped, that little bit prepared, without going absolutely prepper balmy. Is there anything anybody would like to really see done? Is there anything anybody's like, do you know what, show me that? I'm thinking about getting one, or I'm toying with getting one. What do you reckon? Let me know. Hit me up. Other good buys I've had recently. I picked up that for, I think it was about £4.50 on Military Mart, and I've actually whipped the handle off it, because within 2 days a guy up the road had that one for sale for a tenner, which didn't have a handle. And what I liked about that one is it's got the little cup insert, which I'm going to play with and turn that into a stove. So I'm going to modify that to make a stove out of that, to make, in theory, a complete cook system out of the one tin. So we'll have a bash of that over the next few weeks. And I'm also going to revisit the bean tin cooker video. I've had a couple of ideas, so we're going to rig up a hobo stove and a better system. Yeah, TA Doors channel's brilliant. That Viking house he built was absolutely stunning. Guy's brilliant. Luckily for him, the woods he's got is a bit better than mine, and it was also his permissions will let him do a little bit more. Although I have permission on my or to use the woods, obviously there are restrictions on that. And shelter wise is one of those restrictions. Don't want too many features built in that little bit of woods. It's 6 acres and it is surrounded by neighbours. At the moment, the neighbours are really, really good. So yeah, that limits me a little bit that way. But again, for overnighters, for weekenders, and that sort of thing, not an issue at all. Yeah, he has. He has. Just goes to show how well you can do on YouTube. Yeah, I know the videos he's doing on woodland management are absolutely fantastic. I did moan the other week and I said I get fed up with people that start off doing YouTube survival, bushcraft, prepping channels and then go off on a paranoid tangent and end up losing track of where they were. But he's one of the guys that stayed true. He's just moved on. He's going from his ancient skills to applying the ancient skills to the woodland management, and I find it all very fascinating, especially as an ex-forester myself. It's fantastic to watch. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's good videos, and I wish him all the best of luck with it, and I hope he can keep going for many, many, many years. Because yeah, it's entertaining, it's brilliant, it's educational, which is what I'd like to be. Unfortunately, I'm just a bit more rough around the edges, I suppose. A little bit more craggy and not quite as young as he is. Oh, his dad and his pallet wood. His TA Outdoors, his dad. I don't think there's anything that bloke couldn't make from pallet wood. I bet his wife actually dreads the wedding anniversaries and birthdays. Here, love, I made you a new kitchen unit out of pallets. But the fishing videos that TA, is it Totally Awesome Fishing, TA Fishing, that's good as well. The old man's fishing videos, I thoroughly enjoy those. Very, very got the personality for it. I try and I think again they are themselves. I try to be myself in my videos as well. Yeah, it's a good relationship, isn't it? And it makes you smile. Not up themselves too much. I did try recently to contact Kent Survival. I wanted to have a chat to him because again, he's fairly close by, and he's a successful lad. He's done well for himself. Unfortunately, heard nothing back. So hey, maybe he's busy. Maybe I'm just not yet at the level that he's going to take any notice of. But there we go. Comes along later. If I do get a chance to have a meet up with him, it would be interesting to have a chat. I was hoping to get a little bit of advice on that. That will come. Nick at Hidden Valley. He's dropped out of YouTube now, but he's still got his old videos up. That's another brilliant guy to watch, listen to. Yeah, unfortunately, some people like that, and some people are house cats. You can't force people to have a love or a fascination. It's frustrating sometimes when you have somebody and you think, if I could just get them out there and show them, they would enjoy it and it would switch it on. It light the spark. But some people, it's not. I can't sit and play computer games. That just does my head in. I've never been an indoor worker either. I can't be in an office all day long. It just drives me out the wall. Can't do it. Can't do it. I'd rather be wet, cold, and miserable than sat behind a desk in an office. That's the honest truth. Yeah. So, what the other thing we can do is, what else can we do in this channel? What else can I show you? Oh, that's the point. Also hoping to hear from Sam tonight. I don't know if he's joined us. I'm just going to whiz back through, see if Sam's with us yet. No, it doesn't look like it. Okay, I've got to try and get hold of Sam. Oh, Sam to give me a hand doing a review on something. Yes, that's a point. We're talking of reviews. Okie dokie. It's the last time I'm going to harp on about it. Do excuse the belly. I'm losing a bit of weight, funny enough. I'm quite happy with it. The last time I'm going to harp on about it because I'm going to be moving on to another one in the next week or two to review and have a look at. But yeah, so that's that little Elkridge knife. I've not even cleaned it. Okay, so in the lever test, it picked up a very slight bend on the tip, and it is just a very, very slight bend. And I was expecting that. Okay. And it's something I'll say to you about knives. Okay. I would rather have a knife that is hardened to a Rockwell 40 to 59, okay, which is quite soft. And the reason being, anything harder than that will chip, crack, or snap off. And if you're going to choose yourself a knife, if you go for a slightly softer metal and something goes wrong or something happens, rather than that tip snapping off and disappearing and losing it forever, having to reprofile the knife completely and then never having that hardened edge, if it bends, it's a bonus. You can straighten a bend and you can still carry on using that tool. If it snaps off, it's done for. One of the things you look for, and one of the things I do when I'm hardening my blades in the forge, so I'll harden the edge and I always leave the back soft. I try and leave 2/3. No problem, dog dad. Responsibilities are responsibilities. You go do it, mate. Okay, so I'll always leave the back, the spine of my knives as soft as I can. Again, it means it's going to absorb, it's going to bend, it gives it amount of flex, it's not going to snap off. And I normally, my hardest edge is literally the first inch there. And that means I can get that to the finest edge there on that first inch, because that's the one. I won't actually do it on my finger. That's the one where you're working that way. That becomes a slicing edge, so that can be slightly softer. And the tip I like to keep fairly soft, because if I am prying, rather than that tip snap, I'd like it to bend. So in actual fact, I was quite pleased that that tip bent rather than snapping off. But yeah, so that was the Elkridge knife. That was £18.99 from Springfields. Not a bushcraft knife. Well, it is a bushcraft knife. It did batten wood at a responsible size for the knife. It did its job. If you're looking for a cheap camp knife, if you're on a tight budget or even if you're not on a tight budget and you want a backup camp knife, yeah, I can recommend that. Jace, the chef, he popped round and he had a feel of it. Now, as a chef, he uses knives professionally all the time. Okay. And even he remarked, he said, you know what, that's got a really good feel to it. You can work with that quite easily. So yeah, guys, if you're looking for something like that, and the bonus is obviously having a fire steel as well. The sheath, yeah, it's a cheap sheath, but it will do the job. You can always make a leather sheath or improve on it. What I would do if you get one, that popper clasp there, again, as I said before, I absolutely hate those. What I would do is I'd just run a bit of elasticated paracord or something around the top and just make a loop that comes around that. So it basically holds it in there, using that side usually blade, because there is no grip on the sheath at all. You could put an insert in the sheath. An old trick was to use a bit of old leather and soak it in oil beforehand, which makes the leather quite supple. Force it down so that you actually get a friction grip on the blade. Not only do you get that, But then you're oiling the blade every time you put it in and take it out, which tends to keep the blade in better condition. Just a little bit, but yeah, liked it. It's good. Quite impressed. Quite pleased with it. Yeah, good beginner knife or a good backup knife if you were looking for a second knife. Just throw in the bottom of your kit that's cheap and cheerful for emergencies, or even a car knife. Hair bobbles. Yeah, I was trying to think earlier on today, trying to explain that to somebody, and I could not, for the life of me, remember. I kept going, elastic things for the hair. Those elastic round things, hair bobble. Yeah, yeah. Everything to keep it safe. I mean, as you see, I've not only made my own knives. I've collected knives for many years. And I've probably given away more knives than I own at the moment. It's had them all, and I've bought all the knives that are absolutely pointless. I've had the Fairbairn Sykes. I had at one point I had a 24-inch bladed Bowie knife, okay, which was advertised as based on the greatest knife ever made, the original Bowie knife. Do you know what? It was just a beast, and it was just too much to handle. It wasn't practical. It wasn't usable. Um, Jim Bowie, yeah, as a fighting knife, it was probably bloody good as a fighting knife. If you want to go up against a grizzly bear, it would probably do the job for you. But it was huge, and it was just, for everything I do, it's impractical. I have a couple of people remarked about small knives. Well, it's a tool. It's what you do with it. I mean, I've got small knives. I've made small knives. I got shown it on the video. I'll give you a bit more close up now. That's my Herbert's knife. And again, they're not expensive. You can pick these up for 40 quid. That's 20 years old, that knife. And that has been used and used. That profile on that blade has probably lost 1.5 millimeters over the years. Just where I've resharpened it, resharpened it, and resharpened it. In fact, you can actually see it there. If you look here, you can see the drop where it comes down onto the edge. But it's still as good as the day I bought it. And one of the reasons I liked it then, because I was doing game preparation, was this stippling here gives me grip. And I don't know if any of you have ever worked with Gradakin deer and things like that, but when you're actually opening up the stomach, you want to be very careful not to go too deep. So the nice thing is there, you can pinch up on the blade like that. So you've just got that tip, and you use just the tip to work the stomach, so you don't go too deep. And that's, yeah, I batten with that and all sorts. So it's just never let me down. Just always held together. It's a very comfortable, very nice knife. The one that I showed this week that I used for the battening challenge is that one, and that I made primarily because I do a lot of leather work. And if you've ever seen a push knife which you use for leather, I wanted something that would double up for that sort of thing as well. So again, I got the finger protection there. The blade drops down below the fingers so that I can work it without snagging the fingers, and it's a very, 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 very flat grind. Holds a very, very fine edge. And what I wanted to do is, it wasn't really a fair comparison with the battening because I know it's got the thickness, but it's a very, very high tensile piece of steel. It's an old Farrier's rasp, so it's a very, very high carbon content. And I wondered if it would take battening, if the blade would chip or lose anything off the blade, and it didn't. So I was quite happy with that. And again, as I said on the video, don't ever put off any of you that fancy having a go. Okay, you don't have to be a blacksmith. You don't have to have a forge. You can buy a used Farrier's rasp. You can mark it out. You can rough it out with an angle grinder, and then using a sander, files, taking your time, you can then profile the knife. Okay, once you've done that, you want to put it into your oven. Now, you've got to have a chat to your missus and it's a very basic temper test. So what you do in the forge, you make a knife. Okay, you've also forged a fire, I expect. So you make a knife, and then you basically heat the knife up to what they call temperature of decalescence. Okay, so in the steel, all the molecules, or all the steel's crystal, so all the crystals initially face one direction. Okay, which is great if the force is coming in this way. But if the force is that way, the blade breaks. Okay, so when you heat it up, you come to temperature decalescence, and those crystals then do that, and they mesh. Okay, now if you shock cool it, they straighten up. Okay, that gives you your hardness for your edge. Okay, that's how you gain your hardness for your edge. So that's the quench. That's what you see them all doing in the oil. Never do it in water, always do it in oil, because water it quenches too fast and the crystals then all become perfectly aligned to brittle a blade. The bit they don't show you on things like forged in fire is you then take that steel and you put it in an oven and you bring it up to around 400 degrees. Okay, which your average household oven will do. Okay, you bring it up to 400 degrees and you let it sit there for an hour. And what that does, that softens or allows the crystals in the steel to start to mesh. Now, the secret to them making a really, really durable blade is to turn the oven off, crack the door open 1 inch, and go to bed. Leave it for 12 hours. Let it cool slowly. And that's why they can't show that bit forged in fire, because that's what takes the time. That is the essential stage. That is where you're getting your strength, your durability into your metal. Okay, so basically, if you take a file, it's going to be too brittle to make a knife out of. But if you work your knife out of it, make your knife, put your profile in, okay, like that, form your shape, and then before sharpening, tell the missus you're going to use the oven, turn the oven on, put it on just on the rack in the oven for an hour, shut the oven off, crack the door open 1 inch and leave it overnight. Tomorrow morning, that will be ready for sharpening, and you will have a really good quality blade that will probably last you a lifetime. Okay, give it a go. It's not. People try and make it into this miracle science. I've made some really good quality knives for people over the years using old steel. One of the ones somebody asked me to make a really good bush knife, and we were going to make it out of a cleaver, and this cleaver was from the 1800s, really good quality steel. And he said, "What you're going to do is you're going to smelt it down and make it liquid and reblock it." I said, "No, I'm not. I'm actually going to take that piece of beautiful steel, shape it out, carefully cut it, put the bevels into it, heat treat it. That's all you need to do. So you don't always need a forge. Simple as that. Have a go yourself." I used to work with guys that used to make knives for work all the time, some stupidly sharp knives for their work, and they used to use hacksaw blades. Okay, they used to take hacksaw blades, and then they would take a grinder and grind an edge into the hacksaw blade, and then just finish it off on a sharpness stone. And they were like razors and super durable, and they literally just ended up with an insulation tape handle. Bloody brilliant, you know. So again, don't get tricked into this whole mysticism behind knife making and forged in fire and that. In actual fact, pretty much anybody can make themselves a knife with a little bit of effort, a little bit of careful work. The trick is when you're cutting and grinding, don't get it hot. If it starts to go blue, right, you've overheated the metal. You don't want to do that. So you just take your time, go slow, and have a go. What you got to lose? couple of quid on a farrier's rasp, you know. That's it. Skin, pinch your stomach. Yeah. Yeah, that is the correct technique. That's what you should be doing. But as you're aware and I'm aware, I used to do a lot of humane dispatch. So quite often, I might turn up and do humane dispatch where I know, right, that yeah, I don't want to go anywhere near the cavity. It's not where I want to go. So then I'll work around it. And again, if I'm doing that, or if I'm just skinning, quite often, if I'm going fast, gralloching, I like to pinch up, come up, and just use it as a nick blade. It's just going careful. Rabbits and that, dead easy. I mean, I don't even use a knife on a rabbit. I actually, it's an old country trick. I use the back foot. Just pinch the stomach, fold the back foot over, and nick them with the back foot, and then literally just tear in. Do what you got to do. Hi, Dirty Faces. How you doing? Did you manage to find that bit of kit or that eBay site that we sent you yesterday? Hopefully you did. Yeah, there's all sorts of little country tricks there and again, to me, that made sense. I grew up doing it that way. That's how I was shown to do it by the old boys when I first got taken out ferreting. Yeah, undress the rabbits. I mean, no more than 20 seconds on each rabbit. Brilliant. So over the back foot, nick the stomach, open him up, turn him upside down, thumbs over his back, give it a shake, pinch it away. It's done. Simple as. Like, slide your hand in over his back, undress him. He's done. Simple as. Yeah. Just watch out for the bones. Especially if you've caught a rib or something with a shot, and you're undressing him. That goes up under your fingernail. That bloody hurts. That does. Stripper bunnies. Stripper squirrels. Hey, there's a difficult one for you. Undressing squirrels. There's a technique to that. That takes a bit of work. God, it was an American that showed me how to do it properly in the end. Yeah. But again, these are all skills that for hundreds and hundreds of years, pretty much everybody had, even in the towns. You've only got to look at pictures from the 1800s of a butcher's. People didn't buy rabbits and meat dressed. It came whole. You know, the feathers were still on it. The butcher was like, I'm not bloody plucking the thing for you. It makes a hell of a mess, and I've got to get rid of the bloody feathers. So, you bought your game, your chicken, your goose, your duck, your rabbits. You bought them squill on. Yeah, I just can't stand that. Yeah, if we ever get together, I'll explain to you. I have a problem with burning hair. When I've explained it to you, you'll understand it. But yeah, just can't do burning hair, mate. It takes me back to something I experienced many years ago, and I can't. Yeah, gives me the squirrels. But yeah, if you ever got to do a squirrel, yeah, nick him under his tail, okay, and then just pull up, and it does all come off. I might do that on a video. I don't know. YouTube will react to that. I don't want to get myself a strike. Oh, yeah. It's like game birds, isn't it? It's like the amount of people that go to all the effort of plucking. It's just a breast. Most sort of game birds that you're going to eat, just take the breast. That's all you're going to use. You've not got enough meat on the rest of it to make it worthwhile using, unless you're in a real chronic survival situation, then you use absolutely every inch. Oh, yeah. So, and I do apologise if I'm going through it again, because somebody did ask me to show them tonight, and I don't know if they were on earlier on, so I'm just going to whiz back through it quick. Right, it's flavour of squirrels, okay? To make Kaz laugh, I used to have to remove pest squirrels, lots of them, and yeah, it wasn't yours, Mac. Don't worry about it. So I know I was sorting these squirrels out, and I had at work a I don't even remember the old George Foreman grills that drops down the top. So I done my squirrel, sorted him out, gutted him, cleaned him, prepped him, and all the rest of it. Put him in the George Foreman grill, and he'd come out like that. Both arms and legs out, his tail poking down. Tail made a perfect handle for nibbling the meat off. Flavour wise, I always liken it to a pork chop. That's what I think they taste like to me. Everybody's a bit different. I won't do the usual. Tastes like chicken, because chicken tastes of absolutely nothing unless you get one that's been absolutely naturally reared. But yeah, Angus is nightmare to gut. Yeah, but you can only hunt them on a full moon when they're running clockwise around the hill. Simple as that. That's why they got one leg shorter than the other two, isn't it? So they don't fall over. And I believe there's set seasons for catching haggis. Anyhow, just a quick one, just in case whoever it was is back on now. That is the coffee I use predominantly. You can get that in pound shops. You get a pack of about 12 for £1. And they also do a blue one like that, which is just milk and sugar. And to be honest with you, they're not too bad. Okay, I don't know anything about the brand or anything. Things like the Nescafe cappuccinos, they're fine. However, I find you always end up with either too watery or you end up with a powdery thing on the top. And I always indicate keep a couple of just plain cheap coffee sachets that you pinch from McDonald's or wherever you go for a burger or meal. Purely and simply, and it always makes me laugh because you'll get somebody in the group when you're making a brew and you're discussing survival, and you go, right, who wants a brew? And there'll be somebody go, oh, but I only drink black coffee. You know, well, in a survival situation, you drink what you get. There you go, Ian. If you love pork, just like a little pork chop, watch the bones, right? And do not consume the spinal cord or the brain. Okay, as with most mammalian species, you know, brawn is not a good subject. There's only very few animals that you can make brawn from the brain, and squirrels is one of those you want to avoid. They do carry a quite nasty infection. So as long as you take the head off, you're fine. And when you cook it, just remember, don't eat the spinal cord. It's not a good thing to do. I mean, I've never heard of it affecting anybody in the UK, but I know in the States they have situations where it happens. And grey squirrel being American, well, just wouldn't take the risk. It's not worth it. But they are quite edible, quite enjoyable. There is not a huge amount of meat, but there's enough to keep you going. And they are easy prey. Use their own intelligence against them. One of those species that, along with the rat, have kept certain groups of societies in protein for thousands of years. As the old MOD survival manual said, remember, don't throw the dog or the cat out. You might need it in a week. Right. So anyhow, now we're done. 1 hour and 39 minutes. I think that's enough for tonight. I think we've had an enjoyable chat. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Um, Ian, I hope you managed to get that rat. Um, rat, squirrel. If you go on when you get it, rather than me show you, go on YouTube and look up, yeah, skinning squirrels. Some of the American lads have got the technique off pat, because if you try and do it like you would a rabbit, you will be there for ages. It makes a hell of a mess. It's a pain in the arse. But yeah, give it a go. Give it a go. There's nothing to lose. Guys, thank you very much for the support this week. I've appreciated it all. Thank you very much for your efforts. Thank you for following me. Squirrel pox, that's the bugger. Yeah. 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 And same reason that really I'm quite happy to see the eradication of the grey squirrel and the reintroduction of the red. Nasty little buggers. Super intelligent, sweet to look at, tastes delicious. Can't go wrong, can you? Guys, thank you for all the support. What I have to say to you is, please don't forget to like and share my videos and ring that notification bell for the latest videos. Do me a favor, guys. We are 25 off of the 500 subscriber giveaway, and I've had this case sitting on the side for a while now. Yeah, have a chat to your mates. Yeah, ask them to subscribe. Yeah, yeah. Give me a hand trying to get out there. There's a couple of people. I know. I won't go into it. It's just I've had a conversation with somebody who's quite well known, who basically was whinging and moaning about us little channels. You little channels, you're paying us. Us professionals have been doing it for years, and you're stealing our viewers. Well, hard luck to him. I've got a point to prove now. You watch your space over the next couple of years. This channel is going to grow with you guys' help, you guys' advice, you guys' feedback. I'm going to grow this channel, and I'm not doing it for money. I'm doing it because I enjoy doing it. I enjoy sharing. I enjoy the community, and I want to push it out there even more. I think this is something that's growing as a movement in the United Kingdom. United Kingdom, all over the world. People are starting to look back at history and look back at the past, and realise that these skills, once they're gone, they're gone. We've got to hang on to them. We've got to share them. We've got to pass them on. Even if we never need them in our lifetime, our children, our grandchildren, and our grandchildren, any one of those may do. So it's our duty to pass it on. Okay, and yeah, love those you do, forgive those you don't. Peace and light be on you all. I'm going to sit back here. I'm going to finish off my cigar. I'm going to finish off my shandy. I'm going to watch the comments, smile, try and look ruggedly handsome for you guys, and have an absolutely wonderful week, guys. I'll speak to you all next Sunday, and I'll have a couple of videos up through the week. They are all bark, and there's one or two of them. I think at the end of the day, they've had their day. There's one or two of the big guys that have forgotten where they come from. They no longer care about their viewers. They've got so many numbers, they don't care anymore. They've got so many people chucking them kit, they don't care. So, yeah, it gives us room to grow. Rick, take it easy, mate. God bless. Good night to you. Have a great week. Jim, I'll get hold of you through the week, mate, and we will sort something out. Unfortunately, the motor's off the road. Looks like it's going to be down for a week or two. What I might do, I might arrange for me, Jace, and Mac to come out and meet up with you at some point. Dirty Faces, yeah, sorry about that. Watch it on the replay. Remember, give us a like. I know you all give us likes and all this, and I do appreciate it, because when I sit there and I look at my videos, I upload my videos most evenings, and then I go and spend the evening with Kaz. I come up in the morning and I have a look, and I'm like, yeah, cheers, cheers, cheers. And those comments, oh, that really helps. Really helps. All right. Even the guy, I have no idea who they are. Even the guy on pretty much every video I put out has disliked it. I've got one dislike on loads of my videos. If you're out there, mate, cheers. I appreciate it. Okay. But do me a favour, just stick Y on the comments. I won't be offended. It's all a learning curve. Okay. Even if you just don't like my ugly mug, just say, I don't like your ugly mug. I ain't going to be offended. Phil, I'll see you for coffee in the morning. Yes, likes. Give us likes. Yeah. That helps us with the algorithm. That helps the channel to grow. It helps YouTube. The more likes you get, the more YouTube will actually put the algorithm out, the more we can grow the community. Yeah, so guys, probably has got stubby thumbs. Probably got web feet as well. Lee, you have an awesome week, mate. Thanks for your support. Ian, cheers, mate. Really appreciate it. All right. Yeah, it's been a great week. And the YouTube kept working tonight. Yeah. And what I'm going to do tonight, I'm going to go to edit when I finish this and see if I can make a better job of uploading it. Because I've noticed if I watch it on the TV, you don't see the chat. So I'm going to see if I can bring that up on the edit. I'll give that a go tonight. Phil, Tracy, I'll see you in the morning for the coffee. We'll watch the review, watch the replay, give me your feedback. Hey, Matt, I'll speak to you through the week, mate. We'll get together. Jim, yeah, awesome. Yeah, Rick, said good night to you. Ray, yeah, I think you've had to go if you're not still out there. Dog Dad, mate, go in peace, mate. Have a good night. Whiz back through just in case there's anybody I've missed. Yeah, I'll have a look through the conversation later on. So I didn't catch much of it tonight. Guys, thank you so very much. I'm going to end the stream now. Ray, have a great week, mate. Take care. God bless. I hope all is good with you. Right, take a good one. Guys, that's it. I'm ending the stream now. This is Mickey out.